fans, welcome back to Room 237 as I continue my month of October Anthology marathon for Halloween. And this is an anthology that I think a lot of people really like. I see it come up a lot on Facebook pages for horror. And that is, sorry I'm pausing a lot, jeez, I don't know what's wrong with me. 1975 Trilogy of Terror, starring Karen Black in all three segments. Karen Black, of course, is an icon. She's been in a lot of stuff. A lot of people might know her. More modern audiences may know her as Mama Firefly from House of a Thousand Corpses. I've always liked Karen Black, and she does a phenomenal job in all three of these segments. It was directed by Dan Curtis, who is also known for a lot of stuff. I mean, he did the Dark Shadows TV series, the two film spin-offs, House of Dark Shadows, Night of Dark Shadows, I think they're called. He did the Night Stalker, Night Strangler with Darren McGavin. So, done a lot in the horror genre. And this is one that I've known about but never actually saw. The third story, Amelia, has a little a sort of demon doll that's like a Zuni fetish doll. That's sort of become a small icon in horror. Like, that's part of a lot of people's childhood. They say that doll scared them as a kid. You'll see it in a lot of like collages of horror. It's a very famous horror doll. But I never actually saw this movie. I've known about it for a long, long time. Then when I decided to do anthologies, I figured this would be a good time to get it. This edition of the DVD was put out by Kino Lorber Films. They do a great job with theirs. There's not a whole lot of features. This does have some Three Colors Black featurette about Karen Black, Richard Matheson, Terror Scribe, which all three stories were written by Richard Matheson, who wrote 16 episodes of Twilight Zone, including Nightmare at 20,000 Feet and Steel. He wrote a lot of books that became films, like Hell House became Legend of Hell House. Shrinking Man became The Incredible Shrinking Man. The guy's got some credits. I actually want to bring up more of what else he's done. He also wrote the screenplays for a lot of Corman's Edgar Allan Poe films: House of Usher, Pit and the Pendulum, Tales of Terror, The Raven. He did the screenplay for Spielberg's Duel. Also wrote What Dreams May Come, Button Button, which would go on to become The Box with, I think, Cameron Diaz. Which I think Button Button also became an episode of Twilight Zone. Which actually, I guess Matheson wasn't a fan of the Twilight Zone versions, especially with its new ending, and actually used a pseudonym for the credit. But anyway, Trilogy of Terror, it has three films, each starring Karen Black. It aired March 4th, 1975. It was the ABC Movie of the Week. There is a Trilogy of Terror 2 written and directed by Dan Curtis. I don't think it has... Yeah, that's that little doll. I don't think Karen Black returned for this one. I think this all has different people in each one. But anyway, each story is a character's name. Like story 1 is Julie. Story 2 is Millicent and Therese, and story 3 is Amelia. My favorite one would probably be, even though I think Amelia is the big fan favorite, especially because that's the one with the Zuni doll, I really like the second story, Millicent and Therese. The first one, Julie, she plays a teacher where this male student, she's known to be very like reserved, and a lot of the male students talk about her. And there's this one jockey student named Chad. It's a college that she works. I thought it was a high school. I guess it's a college. He has a crush on her, and there's a lot of shots that show that he has a crush on her. He fantasizes for her, longs for her. There's one shot that zooms in on her thigh as she sits on her desk that he's drawn to. He convinces her to go on a date with him to a drive-in. So he takes her there. He goes to get her a drink, and he spikes it. And then when she passes out, he brings her to a hotel where he takes pictures of her. It was made for TV, so they're not going to show anything, but it shows him taking his shirt off. And then they're back in his car while he's dropping her off. She has no memory of it. He kind of acts like nothing happened. She just slept through the movie. She apologizes for a boring date. He goes home to develop the pictures. And then for whatever reason, I guess he shows her the pictures and admits to what he did, knowing she can't go to the cops because he is a student. She can get fired and possibly put in jail. So pretty much, you're going to be my slave girlfriend, sex slave sort of thing. And it gets to the point where he even writes notes like, can't wait to see you later. He gives that to her in class in front of everyone, and she gets very worked up. Ends class. And then the twist ending, there's going to be spoilers for all of these. So if you haven't seen it, I do recommend it. It is a good anthology. The stories are more psychological, except for the third one. But definitely for a made-for-TV movie in the 70s, I think it's very well done. Definitely well acted, especially by Karen Black. She really knows just what to do with all these characters, just really delves into it, and I think she did a great job. So spoilers. The twist is that it's actually all in her control. She's the one that manipulated him. Because she has this sort of romantic idea where she likes to toy with young men to see how creative they can be romantically. Pretty much she she kind of wanted to draw his desire. She even brings up lines that were said by him in the beginning of the story, like, wonder what she looks like under all those clothes. So pretty much she let him gain the upper hand because she wanted to see how creative he could be. And she talks about how she's done this before. And there's this one boy that she actually started to love, but then he bored her as well. Just at this point, Chad realizes that she poisoned his drink, and he dies. And they're in his place, and she starts a fire with the chemicals in his darkroom. It's ruled as an accidental fire. And it ends with another young male student who needs a tutor, and he's come to her. And it ends with us believing she's going to do the same to him. I would say this is definitely the weaker of the three stories. It was still well acted, certainly. I feel like the reveal, the twist was kind of forced. It didn't feel as, like, I didn't buy it as much. But it was still great to see Karen Black do what she does and see what she did with the character. The second story, Millicent and Therese, I really like. And that is it's about these two sisters, both played by Black. They're in this big house. One, Millicent, is this very reserved. We get the idea she's very religious. She has like the black dress, tied back hair, round Harry Potter glasses. She's very worked up, and she's talking about her sister Therese to the family psychiatrist about how she's pure evil. She, at a young age, put herself, came on to their father, was able to successfully seduce him. Their mother's suicide with too many sleeping pills was actually done on purpose by Therese, and something has to be done. And then we see that he sends for this other doctor. Wait, no. Actually, some other guy comes by, but the psychiatrist says he'll be back at some point. And so then we get to see, also she talks to, I believe it's Therese's boyfriend, or a guy that thinks he's Therese's boyfriend. He talks to Millicent about how Therese has corrupted him and some of the stuff that she's done. And Karen Black does a great job at playing this, like, repressed, on the verge of tears, desperate person. But then we see Therese, and this is when the psychiatrist comes back. Therese, blonde, very beautiful, very seductive. Think like Carol Cleveland from Monty Python if she was in like a very dark role like this. She tries to come on to the psychiatrist and say how Millicent is, a goody-goody. He rebuffs her advances. She even yells at him, like saying, either you're a virgin, maybe you don't even like girls, and he leaves. She taunts Millicent. We get the idea that she destroyed her bedroom. She trashed her bedroom, but she's probably got it all straightened up by now. We see Millicent go out, and I believe it's like a neighbor girl or whoever is crying. She asks her what's wrong. She says Therese came out and yelled at her for making noise, broke her doll. And while she's holding this little girl's doll, that's what she says, because it's all narrated by her. That's when she got her idea of how to stop Therese. She gets nail clippings, hair, some rhinestone jewel buttons off her dress, makes a voodoo doll. So then when the psychiatrist comes back, he sees that Therese is laying on the floor, dead, with a voodoo doll with a needle in the heart. Calls for the body to come and get picked up, and that's when we get the twist. Now, if someone thinks the twist of this story is a little forced, I can see why. It does seem a little too... I don't know how I want to explain that. I'm sure some people can think it's obvious. I kind of thought it might go in this direction. If some people think it's too... like, the story didn't do a good enough job to conceal it or not make us think it's going in that direction. If people don't like the twist, I can see why. I really like it. But he says that the woman's actual name is Therese Millicent, whatever her last name was. And he takes the blonde wig off. And he says, the most advanced case of dual personality I've ever seen. So it's okay. I mean, I really like the twist. I really like Karen Black's performance in both roles. I love the contrast, both in character and appearance of this, the unattractive, repressed, reserved, sort of mousy, like, straight-laced, buttoned-up Millicent, and then the beautiful, seductive, promiscuous Therese. I love seeing her play those extreme contrasts. Even outwardly, I like seeing the transition of how she changes in between the two. I actually really like this story. And I think Karen Black does a great job with it. Then we get to the third and final story, Amelia, which is actually a very simple story. I believe Karen Black is the only person on screen. If I could get this damn thing to work. I swear, this tablet. Alright, Amelia. Filmed like a one-woman play. Okay, that's what I thought. She's the only actress in it. It shows her coming home to her apartment. She went on a shopping spree, and she buys this little Zuni fetish doll. Which I want to see if I can click on what that is, because... oh, it came with a scroll containing a wooden fetish doll crafted in the form of a misshapen Aboriginal warrior. Sharp teeth and a spear. A scroll comes with the doll. Contains the actual spirit of a Zuni hunter named He Who Kills. With the gold chain adorning the doll keeps the spirit trapped within. She calls her mother, and we get the idea that she has a very overbearing mother. She tries to justify her independence. She tells her mother that they can't get together because she has a date. And then we see that the golden chain has somehow fallen off the doll, which means it can now come to life. And basically, a lot of the story is just her, once it finally kicks into action, she's being chased throughout her whole apartment by this small Zuni doll. Of course, it builds up, like, she enters the room, she looks, the doll isn't on the table where she remembers leaving it. It is a build-up to her realizing the doll is alive. The doll does take a knife she was using to prepare dinner, And then from then on, it's pretty much her being chased throughout her apartment until the end of the story. She gets stabbed in the ankle. It does have like a... It does sound kind of funny. And eventually, it's always her trying to get the upper hand, like, lock him in a suitcase, which he cuts his way out. She even gets him in the oven at one point. Then it catches on fire. The doll howls in the oven. And then when it stops, but when she opens it, she's hit by like this force that sends her back. And we get the idea that she, when she looks creepy in this. I love the ending shot. And she calls her mother and she invites her for another dinner. And then we see her crouch down like this. And when she smiles, she has big, sharp teeth like the doll does. We get the idea she's going to kill her mother. She is now possessed by the same spirit. And those were all 3 stories of Trilogy of Terror. I know I didn't go really in depth. I'm trying... These anthology videos have been very long. I'm trying to make them shorter. They're all very interesting. I do see them being very Twilight Zone-esque. They're written by Richard Matheson, and he wrote 16 Twilight Zone episodes. Karen Black does great in all 3. For me, my favorite is the second story because I love the contrast of her playing those 2 radically different extreme characters. Of course, the third story with the doll I think is going to be the most memorable. It seems to be that's the one that most people talk about and remember. I would say the first one is the weakest, but she plays it so well, and it is written well enough that you want to see what happens. The twists, I would say the only twist I would say was kind of okay, would have been the first one. People can say that about the second story, and I would see why they feel that, but I really like the twist to the second one. I would say the third one is the scariest, definitely, with the scariest ending. I just happen to like the second one the best. I never did see Trilogy of Terror 2, which came out way later. But this is a pretty decent anthology. Again, the first 2 are more psychological, while the third one feels more like a straightforward being chased by something type horror story. But I'm really glad I checked this out. It's something I've wanted to see for quite a while, and I'm glad I finally did. I'm glad it was part of this marathon. So, 1975's Trilogy of Terror. Thank you for watching.